Hello, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by Cloud Sherpas on Google's geospatial solutions for retailers. Your presenter today is Dave Livesey, Director of Geospatial Solutions at Cloud Sherpas. If you have any questions regarding today's presentation content or with regards to the services Cloud Sherpas provides, you can post a question in the GoToWebinar console. You can also send an email to geo@cloudsherpas.com. I'd now like to welcome Dave to present the content for today's webinar. David?
Thanks, James. And thanks everyone for joining. As James said, I'm going to give a quick overview of who Cloud Sherpas is, and then I'm going to jump straight into the presentation, and with that, a few live demos of how you can begin to leverage the Google mapping technologies for retail. One thing we've done a little test, the presentation is slightly behind. I think GoToMeeting might be lagging just a little bit, so if that's the case, I do apologize. I will try and keep it relatively clear so that you can see what's happening. So my name's Dave Livesey, and I'm essentially the Director of Strategy for our Geospatial department. I work for Cloud Sherpas. We're a company with about 800 employees in 17 offices worldwide across a whole number of countries. We are what Gartner call a cloud services broker, and what we focus on is helping organizations adopt, manage, and enhance their cloud platform. So the first thing we do is try and understand your current business initiatives, everything from systems to business processes, and try and work out how a cloud methodology might apply, in this case with regards to geospatial technologies. This is to help ensure you have the proper licensing and the proper various methods for integrating this technology. We also have a full staff and services group to help you design and implement, and then we also go beyond to help manage that as well. We work with a number of large providers, the key ones obviously being Google, of course, but also Salesforce.com and ServiceNow are the other large providers we work with, as well as a number of other smaller ones that complement these. In the longer run, we also provide support help as well. So any of these technologies you adopt, we can help you do that from start through to finish, identifying the right opportunities and then helping you implement them. So from a geo perspective, what we do is to help you identify, in this case in a retail space, how mapping might be able to help you improve your current operations or your client implementations, and then help you implement that. We're a premier partner in the geospatial industry for Google, one of a very small number, and we're obviously very proud of that. So jumping right in, some things we're going to talk to in the space of geo is that applies to retail specifically, and some of the trends existing in the marketplace. We'll walk you through a three-tiered approach we've got as it relates to mapping, where most organizations are on this continuum, and where very advanced organizations are using it today, the more forward-thinking. And where is that heading based on some of the trends that we're seeing? So what we're seeing is that enormous consumer adoption means geoliteracy for all. What that means is that when we look across web traffic today, about 41% of web traffic is on Google Maps itself. So that what that actually means to you is that your customer base is already familiar with a map. They're already familiar with location awareness, and what that actually means. And in fact, you've probably already started to adopt this to a certain extent in your organization. So we've adopted the Maslow's hierarchy style here to sort of talk through how organizations are starting to adopt mapping. So if we look at the pyramid here, on the bottom layer, is usually where you start. You're talking basic store locators, possibly integrating some directions or distances. As you move up, what we see is people enhancing their geospatial environment, enhancing their store locators with some different data, and we'll show a couple of examples of how you can do that. Then we're seeing people starting to use their geo environment for analytics on where their customers are coming from, how they integrate mobile, and this is something we're seeing as a huge trend in the marketplace, and we'll talk about a little bit more a little bit later. And finally, as we get to the top, we're talking about what we call the aspirational applications and uses for geo. So what are those killer features? Items that we're starting to see, things that organizations are using that are right up the top of the innovation end of the scale. So from a consumer adoption perspective, and also from a business adoption perspective, there are now over 1 million sites that are using Google Maps on their sites somewhere. So if you think about the bottom tier of that previous pyramid and store locators and so on, most of you probably have a store locator of some description, and the chances are that you're using Google Maps for this. At the moment, it's essentially the de facto standard for mapping technology. When your users are coming to your site and interacting with your mapping applications, they expect the ease of the Google Maps experience, and they expect the interaction to work a certain way from both the UI that Google have put together, and the other side of it is that your teams internally also expect this to be easy to implement. You know, it's so ubiquitous, this stuff should now be easy. So starting at the bottom of the pyramid with a store locator, I'm going to start with how we can implement this and go a little further around how we're utilizing this. So what I'm going to do at this point is jump into a demo of a fictional organization that we've created, which is called Buys. So we've put this together for demo purposes, and what you will see on your screen, hopefully, is a number of stores, and you'll see the little bee icons around the screen. We've got a handful of stores. Across, in this case, is Australia. So what customers will want to do with this map is interact with this map, find locations, get to the store, and so on. So what we can do is start with a location. Now, I'm going to start typing in this box here, and actually what you'll see is that it will start pulling up a number of addresses. Now, what you will notice is that currently they are all biased to the United Kingdom. That's because I actually happen to be doing this webinar from the UK today. So this can all be configured so that you set it to be biased. You can set it to be biased to Australia. But what I'm going to do is put in our Sydney address here, and you'll see what I do is I start typing. A lot of suggestions start coming up using Google's Places database and autocomplete. So within a few keystrokes, I can enter my starting location, and I think I need one or two more. There we go. And that gives me what is essentially our Sydney office. So I will click that, and that gives us a starting location for where we would essentially be going from. From here, I can obviously locate the nearest store quite simply. There we go. And one of the things that we will start to do here that might be a little bit different from what you'll be used to is when I click on that specific store, not only do I get the standard business details, there we go, but also we get the street view of where the location is that allows us to interact with that and orient themselves with where we're going. Obviously, that's not buys.com, that's the Gucci store, but as we said, demo data. You'll also notice that within the application here, if we zoom in a little bit, we can also engage with floor plan data, so that if the user is going to a specific store in a mall, we can get some navigation help as to how to get to that location as quickly as possible. One of the things we'll do here as well, considering I've typed in my address, it makes it very easy and quick to get the possible directions to get to the location. And this is using the standard Google technology to achieve that. So these are some of the basics that some of you will be doing and some not. But this is sort of the entry point for users and organizations adopting mapping. So I'm going to jump back to the slide deck for a second. One of the next places we typically see, and the extra add-on that makes it that much more engaging for users, is actually something we saw briefly in the last section at the beginning, around using Google's Places database. That has over 150 million points of interest, as well as the best reverse geocoding or address data on the market. So by incorporating this autocomplete that you might have used on the Google Maps site itself, when you go to the Google Maps site and you type in your address, with just a small amount of code, you can actually integrate this directly to your site. So I'm just going to set up, go to the next demo, and share that with you. So imagine this is how this would work for a quick checkout of a shopping cart within an e-commerce store. What you'll see and notice here is that we've got a few items here in the cart. I will add in here. I can start typing in real time, filling in my address as before, and I'll use the same address. What this does is reduce it helps a couple of things. Firstly, it helps reduce the amount of time that users are spending in checkout. So it reduces the drop-off rate, which increases your conversions to purchase. And again, this is very, very easy to implement. It's just a handful of lines of code. We can restrict it to where the users come from, or at least bias these results to the right place. So, you know, if I was to start typing Sydney, Australia, or a postcode, it would start to recognize the correct addresses. So it's a very, very intelligent use of the API. So I'll jump back to the slide. So again, this is kind of at the bottom end, at the basic part of the funnel. As we start to move up this pyramid, we start to think about the more enhanced users of store locators, how we leverage more advanced analytics, and one of the things we'll really focus on is mobile and some of the trends that we're seeing in the marketplace. So again, mobile, it's been called a trend, but it's a little more than a trend now. There's over 1 billion mobile workers worldwide, and some of the trends we have seen there, as of 2012, smartphone and tablets account for over 70% of all devices sold. In 2012 alone, there were over 53 million tablets sold. And as we look at the first half of last year, the first half of 2013, the install base for tablets and smartphones exceeded desktops and PCs for the very first time. So what that means is that the digital age, the digital generation is absolutely here. These people are starting to come into your stores and your workforce and increasingly expect a mobile-first interaction. Many of them are actually interacting with the web solely on their mobile, so it's actually really important to have these technologies able to be interacted with purely from a mobile platform. You can't just build things for PC and desktop anymore. So the next demo that we want to show is part of what you'd see as a mobile delivery system. So what I'm going to do again is jump back to the buys demo. So what we have here is, like I say, a demo of a mobile delivery system. A good example might be pizza delivery or any retail delivery for that matter. And what we've done is that we've got the users put in an address here. And you will notice shortly the delivery starting to leave the store to head to the customer's address. In this case, we've actually not placed the delivery driver on the map specifically. There's no privacy aspect here. We've actually spoken to customers previously who've said they don't actually want to be able to see exactly where the delivery driver is. But what we are doing is giving them an indication of where they're coming from and heading to, and the approximate distance away. You'll also notice that this site, everything previously I've shown has been primarily for PC, but if this works properly and GoToMeeting does show this, you should be able to see me resizing this. The site will resize and auto-adjust down to a phone format as it is now, and you can use an interact and scroll around with that. I'm going to move it back up for the ease of demoing. But these technologies work really well in the mobile environment without actually having to re-platform them. So you'll have seen the truck driver getting closer and closer to the customer's location here in real time. So we can leverage the Google mapping technology to provide a store-to-site interaction with a fairly simple implementation again. From a development standpoint, this is reasonably straightforward. We're simply taking the truck location and utilizing the Google technology to do a lot of the heavy lifting underneath. So if I jump back to the slides again, we've covered some of the basic users. So moving on, some of the advantages of this technology and why are companies moving in this direction. Why are your competitors and other companies in retail moving beyond simply store locators to these additional interactions? And what are some of the trends that are happening from the business's perspective? One of the big parts of this is the first point on that slide, which is moving expert barriers. The disadvantage of geospatial in the past is that it's required having a very heavy investment in traditional GIS, geospatial information systems technology. So it usually requires some experts who have a lot of experience in this area who are actually able to build really complex mapping tools, especially for internal analysis. And then it requires a whole bunch of training and expertise in order to be able to interact with and use those effectively. So if you're working in GIS or have a GIS department, traditionally sharing and publishing those maps and that data can become quite difficult. So that gives the sort of the first thing. We're starting to make that a lot easier to interact with the Google map. The next part is it's lightweight proven IT. So what that means is that by that you can focus on innovating and innovative experiences instead of building infrastructure or developing complex modeling tools with your GIS department. And this instantly scales with the business. You know, you don't have to invest in huge infrastructure right up the front. It can be used with new use cases given that you find how scalable it is due to it being built on the Google Enterprise infrastructure. Again, the trend that we're seeing, another trend we're seeing is working better together from anywhere. And I think that we're finding that by using these technologies, we're moving towards the work the way you live model, which means that your employees and customers are already using these in real life, in their own personal lives. And it makes it incredibly simple for them to adopt these tools. So the next slide is to go over three more of the guiding principles that we use, that are scalability, accuracy, and usability. Scalability means that, as I said before, we aren't asking you to sign up for a large physical server infrastructure or set up a new data center to run these types of technologies. Particularly the sorts of complex analysis that I'm going to go into shortly. The idea is that it scales with your business as you start to take advantage of it. So as you come up with new uses, as you come up with new ideas, you can actually just implement those pretty quickly and easily. Accuracy covers a couple of things. It covers coverage and quality. Google spends an inordinate amount of money on satellite imagery, putting cars on the road, having planes overflying to get the best data on the map. And especially if you have a global footprint, that's really important. You get the best data in every country. A good example of this is that everyone knows that Google have the street view cars that drive down the streets taking images. And capturing the location as they drive. This is called geocoding, turning an address into a lat-long coordinate. Obviously, this is quite a big problem to do, and it's quite a complex thing to do. It's hard to match up storefronts to addresses and so on. One of the ways Google has solved this is by developing some very complex artificial intelligence, which captures and recognizes the street numbers from the images and matches it up to the results with very high accuracy at a much lower cost, rather than having to do it manually. For example, it allows them to geocode all the addresses in Paris in an hour with this. Finally, we've got usability, and again, this is just going back to the earlier point. That these are technologies that your internal users are already using and are familiar with. So moving towards how the infrastructure works, we're going to give a couple more examples of some great ways to take examples of Google Maps internally in your organization rather than the customer-facing side, so we can get some idea of some of these real-time insights. You're capturing data of where your customers are coming from and understanding where your sales are. So how do we mash that data up with Google's and how do we make sense of that really easily and make it easy to collaborate on? So going back to the idea that you don't need to be an expert to get expert data from a map. So we'll move into this idea of gaining insights and get back to a demo of that. Let me jump back to Surprise again. Right. There we go. Apologies, just having a couple of GoToMeeting hiccups. Right. So what we can do here is go back to our fictional store. What we can do is display where our stores are so we can get a bit of an idea of the distribution across the map. So you'll see down the left-hand side we've got a number of layers. So I can click on the stores there and the stores layer will show up, and you'll see that across Queensland we've got a bunch of stores, a bit of a distribution of those, and I'll zoom in just a little bit. And what we can start doing is looking at some of the data that's associated with these. So I can click on a store and it gives you a little bit of information. If I then overlay this with our regional revenue, it gives a kind of an intensity of where we're actually generating the most revenue for us, and it gives a good idea of how much we're earning in relation to where our stores are. So I can click on a region and show the 30-day sales there. Other things we might want to understand, and actually to make this turn the regional revenue layer off, is where our stores are in relation to where our competitors are. So if I click on the competitors layer, we can display that with in relation to our competitors, and it looks like there's a similar distribution, but biased to slightly different areas. For example, up here in the North Lakes, we've got more competitors than none of our own stores. So we can see where our competitors have a lot of coverage in a particular area, so we can see if there's something going on that maybe we should be paying attention to. In addition, we can see where our customers are coming from, so we can click on the customer layer and show that. Each dot signifies a customer and can indicate the volume of revenue from a particular customer, so we can get fairly granular about the data that we capture at our point of sale, and it can be very useful to understand where our VIP customers are coming from. To go one level deeper, we can start looking at where the volumes of data are coming from. So we can select a particular area, and I'll just zoom in a little bit to make this marginally more meaningful. And we can use the tools, and we can select a little area, and it does real-time analytics to work out, to give you some information about customer revenue, the number of customers within the area, their spend. So we can help for planning where we might place stores, or plan and understand where we might get extra customer revenue, where our customers might be located in relation to this, and how this might influence a marketing campaign, for example. If the individual customer data, like in this example, is a little hard to see and a bit messy, we can also visualize it a slightly different way. What we can do is, instead of having the individual customers, we can have a heat map. And again, in real time, the Google Maps interface generates this for us. There we go. So we've got that sort of view of intensity. It gives a nice visibility of customer density, where our customers might be driving past our competitors to get to us, where we might have a gap that we want to fill with a new store. So this is obviously great for site location, sales trends, and just really getting to understand your customer. Previously, this would have been pretty hard to do with GIS, or worse, laboriously with spreadsheets and more manual tools, and this all makes it very simple to do that. The other thing we can do here, again, is leverage the Places API over here on the left to understand what other factors there might be in the area. So we could say restaurants near, or schools near, or any particular thing that might be in the Google Points of Interest database. You can actually utilize that as well. So just jump back, and apologies for the lagginess of the slides. So okay. The next thing we can move on is to some of the other things that we can do with that data. We've got all that customer data, competitor data, but imagine we want to start putting together some sales territories for delivery areas, for example, and understand the logistics around a given store location. So I'm going to show one last demo here, which is just loading. And the scenario we have here is a segmented customer area between 4 stores. And this one's actually set up to be specific suburbs. So maybe we can understand what the average orders and average sales are by actually doing a little bit of analytics on a particular area. So what we're looking at here is 4 stores with different delivery areas. So we've got green, red, purple, and yellow. So we can do some analysis to what would happen to this store if this store were to own a particular region, and we can change this on the fly to give this store more regions. So if I edit it, I can say, okay, this store here that's responsible for the green delivery areas, I want to expand that green delivery area a little bit, and I'm going to make a few more. Oops. There we go. I make a few more areas green to see what that does to the analysis. So what we do is we go back to the region select and update it, and you'll notice there it's jumped from 170 to 183, 777, 78 total sales. We're using the Google infrastructure to make this very easy. It's built on the Google technology, so it's pretty fast and responsive. And because we're doing this, it'll still work again just as well on the mobile device as it does on the desktop. So how this works is we leverage Google's technology, and this takes the Google base map. We then layer it with Google's data, your data, and then we can provide it to your end users, whether they're customers or internal users. And you'll see at the bottom, to provide beautiful maps at scale is the way that Google phrase it. Whether that interaction is from a tablet, a desktop, a phone, it's very easy to deploy these mapping technologies. One real-life example of this I'll use is FedEx, who are using Google technologies pretty widely. Google Maps and Google Map Engine, they use to serve it up in real time tens of thousands of their delivery trucks to show some of the status. For example, when was the last pickup, or whether it's available for a pickup later in the day. So their users can find it very easy to understand what's possible at a given location based on the history and what's already occurred. So going back towards the pyramid, we're starting to get to the top, bringing all that data into use. The last couple of points, consumer expectations, as we've already covered, digital natives are already here. They have expectations around what they should be able to do and how easy it should be. For example, being able to view interiors. We can help incorporate interior view now using internal street view. Again, this is based on the Google Maps API and technologies. And we can integrate that with the customer experience on your own websites. For example, you could have the ability to walk down an aisle in your store and see what that aisle actually looks like. So, and including things like indoor navigation as well, how to get there. So why does that matter to your business? The users, as we said, the users expect it, the digital age is here, the technology is here, and the best, most forward-thinking organizations are already starting to adapt this in a disruptive way. So now's the time to take what you're doing in mapping to the next level. Our goal and hope is that we can help you move up this pyramid and help you incorporate some of these more future-facing demos in your environment. we can actually talk more specifically and closer with you around what the real-time benefits of this look like, what that looks like from a return on investment perspective, and help you move towards that aspirational retail triangle at the top that covers a lot of the very, very disruptive and forward-thinking and successful players in the marketplace at the moment. So I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance. It's been great to have you on. If you would like to get in touch with us, please contact us at geo@cloudsherpas.com. Alternatively, we have a community in LinkedIn called Enterprise Mapping in the Cloud, and please feel free to come to us via that. So once again, thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon.